After a hectic and disappointing start on Regal Princess in the British Isles, the cruise surprisingly ended with a bit of a bang. We stopped in the pretty ports of Havre, France and Falmouth, England, where we visited a storied fortress with a killer view that was refreshingly within walking distance of the port. We also enjoyed a relaxing afternoon in the beautiful sanctuary. After a sleepy first 10 days of music and entertainment, the ship cranked the volume way up with a much more energized piazza and a fantastic production show. Stay tuned for highlights of my last 2 days cruising the British Isles on Regal Princess. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Ottawa, Canada here. Welcome to the Chill Cruiser, where I review cruise ships from a chill perspective. I just disembarked a cruise to the British Isles on Regal Princess that was full of surprises on the ship and at ports. On my last 2 videos, I shared first impressions of the ship and highlights of our first 6 ports, several of which were very hectic since the ship docked miles away from featured destinations like Glasgow and Edinburgh. This was further complicated in some, but not all stops by a lengthy tendering process. Today I'll cover my last 2 days on the cruise, which I'm happy to report ended with a bit of a bang. We stopped in Le Havre, France and Falmouth, England, and both offered several ways to enjoy the area that didn't require lengthy bus or train trips. Although they position Le Havre as a gateway to Paris, it's a whopping 2 hours away by train. After our stressful experience in Edinburgh, we opted to explore the town and relax in the sanctuary, which my friend and I basically had to ourselves. On the ship, I think the entertainment staff got the memo that the diverse crowd of Canadians, Americans, and Brits of all ages weren't digging the sleepy vibe throughout the ship the first 10 days, so they cranked the volume way up with fun dance parties in the piazza, a great guest entertainer, and a fantastic production show. Our last dinner in the main dining room was also excellent. The Havre is about a 20-minute walk from the port. Aside from the town itself, the main attractions here are Paris or Normandy, both about 2 hours away. They were offering a shuttle bus to make the 2-kilometer trip to Le Havre city center for a ridiculously expensive price of 19 euros each way, but my friend and I were happy to walk. We enjoyed experiencing a taste of French life and local architecture, including a library that looked like a mini nuclear reactor. I was reminded of how more functional things can be in Europe when I stumbled on a free public bathroom only moments after realizing that I was going to need one pretty soon. We spent that afternoon in Princess's luxurious premium sun deck called the Sanctuary, located at the front of the ship on the highest deck in front of the adult pool area. We enjoyed a delicious lunch as well as afternoon tea, as we enjoyed soaking up some much-needed sunshine. That night, we enjoyed watching guest entertainer Nathan Phan, who's a Broadway caliber vocalist who also happens to be really funny and do clever magic tricks. I remember him from my cruise last year on Majestic Princess and mentioned him in my video because he was one of the few highlights of that cruise. He made a cameo in the guest soprano show focused on Broadway hits, singing 2 of the most popular songs from Phantom of the Opera, and he would definitely be one of the top 5 best Phantoms I've seen, and I've seen quite a few. If you ever get a chance to see Nathan, don't miss him. On our last day, we were anchored by the pretty town of Falmouth in southwest England. This port's positioned as Cornwall, which is an hour's drive away. You won't be surprised to hear that we opted to stay local and enjoy Falmouth after the extensive logistics that were required to get to Glasgow and Edinburgh. Although we still had to tender, it was refreshing to have some great options within walking distance. We opted to make the pretty 10-minute walk to Pendennis Castle, which is one of 2 massive forts in the area that were used to defend against naval attacks over many centuries. We spent a very pleasant afternoon here exploring the various components of the fort, including cannon bays, a large gun battery that's a castle in its own right, and the main building with a small war museum. Throughout your visit, you get to enjoy fantastic views of the coast and the town. I would highly recommend visiting Pendennis Castle if your itinerary ever includes Falmouth. As with our other tender ports this cruise, there was a 20-plus minute wait for tender boats to return to the ship, but the crew did come through the line with cookies and brownies, which I thought was a nice touch. Back on the ship, it was clear management wanted to end the cruise on a very high note because every aspect from food to music and entertainment was top-notch, which unfortunately wasn't the case the rest of the cruise. We enjoyed a fantastic meal in the main dining room, followed by a rousing production show called Bravo that featured a guest soprano vocalist. I've seen the sister princess show called Encore, which had random pop and opera songs, some well-known and some not. Bravo was much better with a smart mix of well-known opera titles from Puccini, combined with a mix of well-known pop and Broadway songs. I had goosebumps throughout the performance and enjoyed it so much, I had to go watch a bit of the second show. Bravo now seems to be on stage across the Princess fleet, so I would definitely check it out. It was also nice to see that they fired up the party band to perform a variety of crowd-pleasing pop and rock songs, which filled the dance floor. This was a refreshing change from the rest of the cruise, where the music programming seemed to be designed to send everyone to bed. I realized late in the cruise that one thing that was missing from the piazza was the piano entertainer, which adds some fun and energy to the piazza in between sets of the party band. This version of Royal Class ship does have crooner's bar right in the piazza with a piano, but it sat empty the entire cruise for no clear reason. They did have a pianist performing on the last 2 days in the wheelhouse bar by the steakhouse, but it seemed like a waste to hide her there. Disembarkation from the ship was fairly smooth. We were off the ship and out of the terminal in about 20 minutes. There was no customs section to worry about. You just had to navigate a few escalators to the baggage hall and then walk out. So the big question is, would I recommend this cruise? You know what? To be honest, I'm still marinating on that. Hit subscribe and watch out for my full ship review, as well as lessons learned cruising the British Isles after I've had a few days to reflect. You'll also get to follow the rest of my European cruise adventure in the Mediterranean and on a transatlantic to Fort Lauderdale. In the meantime, don't miss my video on the 10 things you need to know while planning a princess cruise here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.